as we mentioned, we're going to talk about the Comey and James prosecutions dismissed without evidence. So within the past week and a half, federal district judge Cameron Curry dismissed the indictments that President Trump had ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi to obtain against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. So before we get to questions about that, let's lay it all out for you in this story.
Judge Cameron Curry ruled Lindsay Halligan's Trump-backed appointment as interim U.S. attorney violated federal law and that all actions from it, including the indictments, must be thrown out. In a video posted to Instagram, James Comey said the case never should have been brought.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence.
Letitia James also celebrated the ruling. In a statement, she said, quote, "I remain fearless in the face of these baseless charges as I continue fighting for New Yorkers every single day." The Justice Department says it isn't done with Attorney General Pam Bondi vowing to appeal.
We'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable.
And the DOJ says Halligan isn't going anywhere.
We have made Lindsay Halligan a special U.S. attorney, so she is in court. She can fight in court just like she was, and we believe we will be successful on appeal.
It's not because of the evidence in the case. It's not because of the arguments. It's for a procedural reason.
But analysts say an appeal may be a long shot.
It seems highly unlikely that will be effective.
For now, the cases are wiped out, but prosecutors could try to refile them with a lawfully appointed attorney. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
All right, so there you have it. Greg, the judge ruled the appointment of President Trump's handpicked prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, was indeed invalid.
Interesting, because you see James and you see Comey rushing to Instagram saying that this validates their innocence or whether they should be charged. And the opinion of District Court Judge Curry says no such thing. This is a procedural issue where you would think the Department of Justice, who does this routinely, would know how to count the numbers. And under the U.S. Constitution and the Federal Vacancy Reform Act of 1989, let me tell you how this works. When you have a presidential appointment, now, for example, the president has certain powers. He can make Mark Rubio the director of the National Security Agency without congressional oversight, approval by the Senate. But when you look at the judiciary, under the advise and consent clause of the Constitution, it is the Senate's job to confirm the U.S. attorney. Now, here's how it can work. You're appointed, and Trump did appoint a interim U.S. attorney, and that was Siebert. Mm-hmm. And the first...
who left pretty quickly.
Well, he left pretty quickly because he said that there was not sufficient evidence, and there's actually a DOJ memorandum to indict James Comey.
And President Trump said, you know what, I'm just going to let you go. You can go on.
You can go
as
on.
if it was a favor to Siebert.
But again, we can't count to 120. So Siebert had already utilized his 120 days. Mm-hmm. Now, the only exception to the Federal Vacancy Reform Act, if there is a pending nomination before the Senate, then it tolls the time. But you can get an extra 210 days. So what the president did when he appointed his past attorney, a member of his staff,
a former
Halligan,
White House aide,
and told her to indict Comey, she took 2 weeks in this complex criminal case that her predecessor declined to prosecute to do an indictment. And I think because she couldn't get anyone from the Department of Justice locally in that district to join in.
And we should point out she has no prosecutorial experience.
Never done a criminal case.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's like asking someone to fly a G4 or a 747 that had played video games on Xbox. No prosecutorial experience, and she is charged with indicting one of the most complex cases. But again, she can't count to 120. So what happened was, it's not whether Comey could have been indicted.
But I still want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's not whether he was innocent. It's because Siebert had used the time under the Federal Vacancy Reform Act, and there was no one in the queue for the Senate under the advice and consent clause to approve.
This is a complicated case.
What
You're
is it? No,
right.
but it's not. If you
Lot-
bo- if
well,
you-
but it's a chess game.
but it's procedurally.
Yeah.
You can appoint somebody, and they can do their job temporarily while the Senate is confirming
Making
them,
the decision.
because they're the Senate, the calendars,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But what you can't do is have a revolving carousel where you keep making an interim appointment, and the executive circumvents the powers of the Senate in confirming that nominee. So once again, there is a constitutional clash of epic dimensions. And here's what's the most interesting thing of all.
Okay, do tell.
Do tell. So
Because I do have more questions.
2 days after the indictment, the flawed indictment,
Yes.
where Judge Curry said there was absolutely no jurisdiction, Halligan was the only one that signed it, so everything that flowed from it is procedurally defective, unlawful, and is dismissed. 2 days after the flawed indictment happened, the statute of limitations ran to prosecute Comey. And if you read footnote, I encourage everybody. I know, reading judicial opinions isn't something we like to do in our spare time.
It's a little
But
light reading.
It's much better to watch football, watch the Vols, or read bad things about Lane Kiffin. But in
Funny, good ones.
there, she says, the judge says, "Hey, the statute of limitations has ran, and I'm not going to opine whether he can be reindicted, even though it's without prejudice." So not only can they not
gone.
count to 120, they let the statute of limitations run. So the issue isn't whether Comey was innocent, whether Comey was guilty. They have botched one of the ex-director of the FBI. So a really sensational, again, the constitutional fog from Hegseth is kind of
The
hovered
cast of
over the
characters.
U.S. Attorney's Office.
Yeah.
But once again, no one is reading the Constitution. No one's doing what they should have done.
Okay, even so, I want to ask you a couple of things here, just as our legal analyst. Did the cases against Comey and James have any real merit?
To answer that question, I think you would have to look at someone that had looked at the evidence and knew what was going on. And what media sources have reported is that there was a DOJ memorandum and a declination letter, which meant that Siebert, her predecessor, declined to prosecute because there was not sufficient evidence.
Okay.
So to answer to your question, the U.S. Attorney, Mr. Siebert, felt that Comey was innocent.
All right, there we go. Okay, here's the next question. What do you think the Trump administration might do next about this, if anything? Are they going to let it go, or do they have grounds to appeal?
Well, you can huff and puff and try to blow the Constitution down, but I think it's not going to work. I think the Court of Appeals is going to make short shrift of an appeal because Judge Curry's opinion is well written, and it's just focused on the procedural issues, whether you can count to 120 days, and you can't take away the Senate's right to confirm judicial appointees. I mean, remember how controversial all judicial appointees are, and we have filibusters, and we have all of the hubbub in the Trump administration, and
We
and
watch
the Biden,
them, we wonder
trying to
how it's going to turn out.
Load up
Yeah.
the benches with people that have the right litmus test.
Right.
You just can't suddenly, forget that there's a United States Senate because there's 50 people, 100 people from 50 states that are not very happy that their constitutional role is being circumvented.
What does this say about the man in charge?
Who's in charge? Pam Bondi, POTUS? I don't know. It says that there are a lot of questions, but I think that it is going to be very unlikely that that Comey or James is going to be prosecuted, and it's not because they were guilty. It's not because innocent guilty. It's because there was a procedural error. So all the puff, all the circumstances, all the ranting on True Social came down to, can you count
Yeah.
to 120 plus 210? And hey, by the way, you've got 100 senators that want to be involved,
Well, that lawfully need to be involved.
that pursuant to the ask and consent clause of the Constitution
Yeah.
have to be involved.
All right, we're going to leave it at that. Let's talk more at 5:30 tonight. We're going to keep it today on Venezuela and the defense secretary, and we'll bring you the latest on that. Thank you very much for joining us. We have several people who are with us right now. We appreciate it. We'll see you back here next week. But in the meantime, join us tonight at 5:30 for more on Pete Hegseth.